Hey guys, this is video 6 for the Gen 6 454 for the Corsair. I've got all of the pistons out, or piston assemblies and connecting rods, except for two of them. And I ran into something that I think I need to make note of. Typically when you get one bank of the pistons out, you should be able to slide the other four. In other words, if there was a connecting rod right here, just one, it ought to slide very easily back and forward. And what that tells you is that the perpendicular and the parallel lines, everything's lining up properly, meaning there's probably not any bent connecting rods from a hydrolock and stuff like that, or either warped rods from damage, etc., etc. This is the first engine that I've pulled apart, which is really interesting. There's no movement. It's really bizarre. See how that's obviously there's nothing beside that. And I don't know if you can see down, I don't think you can because of the light, but there's still about 3/16 of an inch left between the piston boss and the wrist pin and the connecting rod thrust side. In other words, this should be sliding back and forth, and it's not vacuuming from the oil or anything. It's not locking. Sometimes oil will create a pretty serious vacuum. But long story short, it's not moving on this plane at all, which is really odd because it was turning over so well. And this will give you a little bit more indication. This is going to be bank number 1, and this is bank 2. So in other words, the two pistons that were still in there will be number 6 and number 8 from bank 2. But in relationship to bank number 1, this is number 1, 3, 5, and 7. And you'll see here, at a minimum, that's about how the connecting rod should move within the piston. And see, this is sliding back and forth. So I'd say that piston is acceptable. Now look at this. See, there's just no movement. Now you can get it. I can break it free. But it's not moving freely at all. And that's what I was talking about look at that, there's a tight spot right there. And what that is that's where the piston's got some galling in it. And you know what, it very well could have been built just from the build process. When this thing was built, it could have been a piss poor pressing of the pins, because when I install my connecting rods on pistons, I don't press them on. I heat the rod, and everything's about a 1.5 second process where I got a jig that I push the pin in very quickly, and it literally is, I'm not kidding, it's about a 1.5 second process. But I'm able to then pick up the piston, and the piston will just rock back and forth and go click, 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 and slide back and forth from front to back. It's almost like a 2-stroke engine where it has bearings in it. And what that does, that frees up the piston to move, because when you're running 5,500 RPMs, I don't even know the calculations, but how many times, I think it goes up and down like 55 times per second. It's insane how much so in other words, it moves something like 55 times within 1 second forward and back. And if it's having to fight, look at that shit. If it's having to fight through tight spots like that, look at that, won't even move. So anyway, I'm not complaining. I'm just making, this is really interesting assessment. This one is really, it's amazing. Damn, I can't even hardly see. I'm pressing down on the piston trying to get it to move. So anyway, I wanted to go ahead and make that assessment. This will give you an idea of the rust and contamination that was in the cylinders. This is on a side note. I hear guys at the marina sometimes will come in and say, yeah, we had an engine that was kind of stuck, but we finally got it freed up. And they're in a great mood. They're all excited because they actually got the engine to move. But what they don't realize, all this crap is still in there. And yeah, congratulations, you got it moved. So now that you can run all of this rust and film and debris and crap through your engines. Also, I think Maybe not this one. Yeah, this one, see the top ring frozen in place, so it's not spinning properly. In other words, that's going to create hot spots and probably break. I'm being over analytical here, but I'm just, you know, these are things that are really important. See, look at that ring. That's number 1. The compression ring is frozen. Again, you remember number 1 and 3 was the 2 that had extensive amount of rust and the intake runners. So correlates to frozen ring. Interesting. Here, this is number 3. It looks really, really good. It's really strange how that happens sometimes. So neither here nor there, but nonetheless, you know, rust in any of them is not a good thing. But I just, like I said, I wanted to stop and make note of this. Sorry about that. I wanted to make note of this motion, this forward and back motion. And see that even it's moving, but it's not moving, you know, nice and smoothly. So I think I've driven the point home, as I like to say. But I haven't even looked at the cylinders yet. I guess while I'm here, I might as well turn the engine over and let's do a quick assessment of that. But again, it's going to be bored. I know that. Look at my light here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. I'm just going to find, you know, not really, no more than what we discovered last night. This is number 2. It's one of the most serious ones that's going to require the bore work. Again, oh, I'm sorry. That's number 1. This is bank number 1. This cylinder number 1. Cylinder number 3. Oh, it's a shame. It's in excellent condition. That cylinder would hone out perfectly, if it might, of course. Cylinder 5, perfect. It would hone out perfectly. I'm gonna have to move the. Let's see if I can put the light right there. That's kind of difficult to tell. I just barely. Oh no, I can feel it over here. So, and you see it. You see the where the pitting. And let's see, obviously that's where the piston stopped the last time it was running, and then that's where the water puddled, and it's or either the piston, the top of the piston probably stopped about 3/16 inch above that, and that's where the rings were, and holding all of the funk and the debris. So number 1 and number 7 on that bank is what's forcing us to bore. And obviously I haven't pulled these 2 pistons out yet, but I do know that let's just go ahead and look at number 2. I'm sorry, it's hell with the lights here. Number 2's good. Number 4, bad. See that line? It's like on a 45 degree with the light. Oh, here we go. Perfect. That's where, just because of gravity, that's where the water was actually puddling. And man, there's some really serious pitting right there. That's why I mentioned I typically just go 30 thousandths on a bore. No sense in wasting time trying to cut at 20, and 20 thousandths over pistons are a little bit more difficult to find. 30 will usually knock that crap out right there. Same thing, see the line? What I mean by that is, see, if you know, if the engine's, you know, well, you know what I'm talking about. The pistons are on a 45 degree angle, and that's why that rust point is on level. Anyway, I'm going to end the video there. Otherwise, let me think. Oh, I didn't really talk about the crankshaft and the connecting rod bearings, which I'm going to go ahead and just knock this out in this video because I don't want to make any more videos related to the bottom end. The crankshaft so far, what I've seen, it is positively excellent. I mean, it's amazing. It looks brand new. Even the bearings, it's so good that I don't even want to touch it, and like I don't even want my fingerprints on it right now. So I'm gonna keep the oil on that. In other words, this crank is just phenomenal. The bearings, I'm not gonna go. I don't really want to fool with looking at them, but they're flawless. I didn't see one bad bearing. I'll still replace the bearings, but what I'm saying is that's an excellent indication that even though it had these weird tight spots, it was still running really well. There wasn't anything going on. Haven't seen any discoloration in the metal or anything. So I know this is turning into a long video, so I want to cut. I try to like to keep them under 10-12 minutes, but the crankshaft is great. Everything's, you know, very clean, very clean. Internally it looks brand new. I won't go into details, but anytime I pull something apart, you know, I always label it Gen 6. Now if I have 3 or 4 engines in the shop, this will be like, you know, Corsair Gen 6 timing assembly, and within this timing assembly you're going to have your sprocket, your chain. I'm not going to reuse this, but I just, now obviously I'll use my plate, my cam retainer plate. I'll reuse that again. But you know, it's great to have this stuff organized. Let's say I need, you know, the oil pan bolts for the Gen 6 Corsair. Boom, there it is, and I'll put all this in like a filing system in a box later on. So here's a really good indicator of how clean the interior of the engine was running. This is the inside of the cam. Inside of the cam. Inside of the cam cover. Excellent, very healthy. You know, no milky residue, crap like that. So, you know, anyway, and it cleaned up nicely, the initial cleaning. So anyway, I should have ended the video already, so I'm going to kill it as quickly as possible. The engine's in very good condition. Just was strange about these con rods. So on that note, before I forget, I'm going to have my machinist assess every one of these connecting rods and verify that there's no twist or no warpage or no funk about that at all. So it's going to bump up the machine work cost a little bit, probably $100 or so, but it'll be the insurance policy that we need to know that the con rods are healthy. Okay, thanks guys.